Good morning, everybody. It's another bullish day in the crypto market. Yes, it's bullish because patience is part of the process, and we're going to see a rally sooner than later. So I want to break down all the different factors, the charts, the on-chain data, the macro, the bullish news we have overall. So we're going to run through it today, folks, and look at the different asset charts. Folks, on your way in, hit that thumbs up button, hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button wherever you're watching and listening. Crypto Rafi, great to have you. We'll give a few more minutes for folks to come on into the stream. We got lots to cover. Lots to discuss, folks. Good morning, CB. Great to have you from Vancouver. I've yet to visit Vancouver. It's on my list. Chase Simpson Enterprises says very doubtful of rate cuts this month, but it's coming, and ETFs appeal drop and utility. Yeah, I agree on the rates front. I don't think anything is going to get cut this month, but I do believe we might get a signal from Jerome Powell about September. Eric DM101, greetings from Holland. Welcome in, Eric. Great to have you. Yeah, we can definitely check out Curve Finance. Great to have you, Seconds of Meditation. Victor Hernandez from Fresno, California. Welcome, Victor. Travis says you are the only non-hyper on YouTube. Thank you for the past 7. Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure, Travis. I'm happy to have helped along the way, and hopefully, we all make some great returns this bull market. Fred Williams, all the way from Glasgow, Scotland. Thank you, Fred. Great to have you. Your RG from South Africa. Ronald Kumar from Chi Minh, Vietnam. Wow. Welcome in, Ronald. Poker Mope XRP, good morning. Tamagotchi Fly. I apologize, I'm butchering that, but welcome in from Michigan. Danilo Oliva, welcome in from Colombia. Wow. Pal from California. Great to have all of you. Yeah, absolutely, CB. I definitely need to visit Vancouver. I've heard great things. Heinrich, greetings from South Africa. We've got folks from around the world on the stream. It's so amazing. That's what I love about the internet. You could connect with people globally. It's still pretty amazing if you think about it. XRP Magnificent says rest of this year will be solely for research. The next will be for profit taking and blessing others with it. Greetings from Tampa, Florida. Yeah, absolutely. David R. Morla, welcome in. Good morning. Frankie, welcome in from Norway. Demo says, Tony, what's your price prediction on XRP? Yeah, we'll talk about that and look at the charts and so forth. Thank you, Jace. I appreciate that. Levels of madness. RLC Cuber, welcome in from the UK. Great to have you. Jay Choi, welcome in from South Korea. Wow. There's a lot of crypto traders and investors in South Korea. Crypto is pretty popular there. Chicken Tonight says, Tony, wouldn't it please interview BitTrue Exchange? I'll try to get them. Demo says, Tony, do you think this could be the last cycle? No, I don't think this will be the last cycle. I think 2030 could be even bigger because you're going to see a lot of building in the bear market now that legislation is going to be passed. John Howell, welcome in from the UK. Great to have you. Folks, great to have all of you. Hit that thumbs up button, hit the heart button, hit the like button wherever you're watching, listening. It supports the stream, doesn't cost you anything. Subscribe if you haven't as yet. So folks, right now we're kind of in a holding pattern, right? Everybody's waiting for Bitcoin to move, for the other altcoins to really take off. But we know that even though you may have individual altcoins, like for example, BNB, the Binance token, was moving, hitting new all-time highs, it's not going to pull the entire market with it. You need Bitcoin to do that. I don't make the rules. This is just how the markets have operated. It's how the market makers operate. It's how the whales operate. So definitely understand that we need to see what Bitcoin's directional move is going to be, and that's really going to carry the market. Right now, Bitcoin's consolidating, moving sideways. It's like no man's land, right? Like, which way do we want to go? There is, I did some research this morning. I saw there was another CME gap that was still open around 114,000. Bitcoin did close 115,000. Now, it doesn't mean it has to go down, but there's a possibility it can certainly do that. So keep that in mind, that we may dip down a bit before we head back up, okay? But nothing significant. We're talking small minor moves here, maybe a quick flush out and then a move upwards. So Bitcoin has to lead the show. It grabs the liquidity, and as you all know, when it hits its overbought zone, then it starts, the liquidity starts rotating to Ethereum, XRP, and the other altcoins. We just saw that with the move to 123K, where Ethereum and XRP stole the show, and then you're seeing other altcoins waking up, like Litecoin, like BNB, and so forth. Something to note, in the recent rally where we in May, notice that we hit a high and then we pulled back from the overbought zone, the RSI that is, and we didn't necessarily go to the oversold zone. So I think something similar is happening here. We're going to have that pullback, but we're not going all the way down to touch 30 and below with the RSI. So this is why I think this move will be short-lived, and we could still see more upside. So it's just patience. I believe, folks, based on the data, that come, as we roll into August, the markets are going to start to pick up steam. And you may say, Tony, what happened to sell in May go away, right? The boring summer that we usually experience. Well, as I've been stating, the tariff crash pushed the timeline back by pretty much like 2 months, because no one saw the massive crash coming out from the tariffs, right? And a lot of people got scared, of course, and a lot of people panic sold. But the factors like global liquidity and what the dollar is doing and much more showed that we were still in a bull market. Now, speaking of the dollar, the DXY, notice it's finding some strength here. So that's why you may see risk assets like Bitcoin and crypto cool down even further, and the RSI also showing that directional move. So again, short-term pullback, but we're going to come out of it pretty quickly, in my opinion. So what we are seeing, though, from a timeline perspective, like I said, the whole tariff crash pushed the timeline back, where usually, in the middle of July into August, it's boring. Nothing's happening. You kind of go away on vacation. But surprisingly, Bitcoin hit a new all-time high just 2 weeks ago, and I believe it will continue to go higher. And here, Rect Capital has the timeline chart, and I think it's spot on that some upside here in as we end July into August, then a pullback into late August. That could be a more significant pullback, and then the show continues into Q3, into September, and then into October. ETH, which was rallying, you can see it's starting to cool down. It's in the overbought zone. So again, short-term pullback before we continue. Same thing with XRP, cool down, getting out of the overbought zone. That's actually very healthy, because notice the RSI was in that maximum green area approaching 100, and that's super overheated. We've seen this time and time again, right? These are simple market principles and signals that can help you navigate the market. So I hope you understand why we're looking at this. In addition, the MACD on the daily flipped to red. So you can see here, it went from green to red. And if we look at ETH, it's also ramping down from the green zone and going into red. So again, short-lived. Bitcoin's already in the red. We could see additional pullbacks, but nothing significant. I'm not expecting anything like, oh no, Bitcoin crashed to 96,000. Definitely not expecting anything like that. If you look at the total market cap, total 3, which excludes Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stablecoins, also doing the same thing, getting out of that overbought zone. Again, these things don't have to go back to the oversold zone. They can simply go down a bit and then bounce. I think that's what we're going to see, honestly. One thing's for sure, the whales keep buying. Look at BlackRock. They now have over 730,000 Bitcoin. Look at the chart. They just keep accumulating. Have there been outflows? Of course, but it's just cyclical. But overall, the trend is they keep buying and buying. On-chain data from sentiment, which I've been sharing with you guys for a long time. It's a key metric we have to watch to understand what's happening and what's coming in the market. Whales with wallets of 10 or more Bitcoin continue to accumulate. So they're not dumping. And when we see that this number starts going down, it starts trending downwards, that's when we're going to have to be like, oh, okay, this show is wrapping up here. The Bitcoin Pi cycle top indicator, while the curvature of the 111-day moving average, going towards the 350-day moving average is on the rise, it's nowhere close to where we've seen it historically, where these moving averages touch, and that usually signals the top. So that's a good sign. Global liquidity also showing us that we got room for upside here. The thing we have to watch is this is showing a top in October, late October into early November. I don't know if this recovers and keeps going higher, because if it does, that means, this bull market could bleed into 2026. But as of right now, it is almost consolidating here. So we have to wait and see what it decides to do. But if it signals that, if it starts downtrending, it means that top is going to come in around late October into early November. And you can see Bitcoin is following it very closely, although there is a lag, 105-day lag. The other factors I've been sharing with you guys, why I think potentially the top could be in this time frame, is in addition to the global liquidity, US and China paused the tariffs for another 90 days. Where does that put us? In October. In addition, Congress is going, or the Senate specifically, is going to pass crypto legislation in late September. We know government does not move according to, or there often are delays, as we've seen with the Genius Act. So this could bleed into October, where it's passed in October. That would be a huge narrative, a buy the rumor, sell the news event, bringing in massive retail. Oh, look, crypto has legislation now. Everybody can participate. We have clear rules. Huge narrative that's going to bring in a lot of people into the market. So that's what I'm personally looking at. I hope you understand. No feelings or emotions, no bias, just simply the data and the facts, right? What I'm sharing here with you guys. So that's how I'm planning things out. I'm going to be looking to take profits over the next 2 to 3 months, depending on how the market moves, how the charts play out. But, this respective rally that I'm anticipating here, where let's say Bitcoin goes to 130K, 35K, and so forth, I'll be taking some profits there. I expect Ethereum to break through 4,000 for sure, maybe top out around 4,500. XRP, I think I've shared with you guys, the next major target is about $4.50 around that zone. So I'm not going to be necessarily taking profits there. I'm waiting for $5. If it gets to $5, then I'll start executing my first profit-taking strategy. So I do believe we got higher, and that's why I believe, Q3, Q4 will take us up to the $7, $8 range, possibly $9, and so forth. So that's what I'm looking at, honestly. And again, I'll be taking profits on ETH, XRP, Solana. And one thing we want to watch is what Ethereum does, because this is going to be very, well, it should be a big signal for the entire altcoin market, because we've seen this historically, and a lot of altcoins are built on the Ethereum blockchain. So once again, whales continue to accumulate. Liquidity is on the rise, and the U.S. is about to insert more liquidity, it looks like. So U.S. Treasury, I talked about this in yesterday's news, U.S. Treasury plans to borrow over $1 trillion in the September quarter, expecting an end cash balance of $850 billion. Same story, different cycle. Nothing stops the money printer. They will continue to print and print and print. And this is why we are invested in assets. This is why we're taking the time to educate ourselves and know what the hell is going on here. And yes, you can invest in the stock market. You can invest in crypto, real estate, precious metals, and so forth. All of these things are in a bull market. They're hitting new all-time highs. But as billionaire Paul Tudor Jones said, nothing moves like crypto. It's the fastest horse in the race amongst the different assets. And speaking of the stock market, that's another indicator. It has been hitting new all-time highs, also following global liquidity. So all of these things indicate higher highs are coming. despite the short-term volatility we may experience with pullbacks, which are healthy, right, guys? So even the stock market, if we look at the RSI, the S&P 500 here, if I can fix my charts here, they're giving me some problems. It's in the overbought zone as well, right? So I hope you see what I'm sharing here with you guys on the Bitcoin chart, on the altcoin chart. All of these assets are overheated. So a pullback, and once again, it doesn't have to go to the oversold zone, will be healthy, and we can certainly go higher. So NASDAQ, S&P 500, all in the overbought zone. So let's see how this plays out, folks. And the stock market, I think, is going to go to certainly higher highs, potentially now, maybe near 7,000 come Q3 and into, or I should say Q4. So this is where we're going to watch all of these things. Watch them closely to see what's happening. Gold had an amazing run up, and I think the rotational liquidity continues between these different asset classes. Silver has been doing pretty well. You may say, Tony, I'm not invested in silver. Well, yeah, but again, we're using these things as an indicator of what's happening in markets, and are we nearing the top, right? So look at silver, all-time highs. Amazing. Why? Is there all of a sudden this huge demand for silver? Only because the price has been going up, with global liquidity sending everything higher. So hope you understand that. Folks, before we go further, check out our sponsors, Uphold. And it looks like I'm on the login page here for some reason. Uphold is a great platform where you can buy, sell, and stake crypto assets. I've been using them for years, since 2018. They're one of my go-to exchanges. They have 300 plus cryptocurrencies. You can get staking on 20 plus crypto assets. So check them out, folks. Once again, one of my go-to exchanges. A great way to custody your crypto is using the Trezor hardware wallets to do self-custody. I'm a big believer in self-custody. I'm a user of the Trezor Safe 5. Great, beautiful hardware wallets, easy to use. I love the Trezor Safe 5 because the screen is so big, and it's really a better usable device than, let's say, the Ledger. You can get 5% off if you use my code ThinkingCrypto, all one word, ThinkingCrypto. So check them out. Check out Proppy. They're putting real estate on chain. You can buy and sell properties on their platform using crypto. They've tokenized real estate, tokenized deeds, created NFTs for properties. And I'm a Proppy token holder. I have been for a long time. A billionaire investor, Tim Draper, is invested in this platform. So check them out. Check out VeChain, one of the top layer 1 enterprise blockchains, getting huge adoption, partnering with big brands around the world. They're even partnered with Dana White in the UFC, doing some cool things. So I'm a VET token holder as well. We're going to look at the chart later. And check out I Trust Capital. If you want a different way to invest where you can get tax benefits, they have a great self-directed IRA. They also have a great custody option, which they use a bank custodian, and they use Coinbase's institutional prime service. So check them out, guys. You can get a $100 funding bonus if you sign up at my link. Once again, a great alternative, tax benefits. And I would say behind self-custody, this is one of the safest ways to custody your assets, because they're using a bank. So all of it is insured and FDIC insured and all that jazz. So check out our sponsors, guys. All the links will be in the description. Now, look at this news. If you're not bullish, man, you're not paying attention. Rack Bank becomes the first UAE bank to offer crypto. So all the banks around the world, guys, are building crypto services, whether it be crypto trading, custody, launching their own stable coins, integrating blockchain in different ways. But amazing. So retail users can now trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP directly in the AED. I mean, it's surreal, right? I couldn't imagine this when I got into the crypto asset class in 2016, but I think we all see the direction the puck is heading in. And that's why we're here as early adopters taking our bets, because the banks are going to be calling you up, offering you the ability to trade crypto, and they will custody for you. That is where we're going. Crypto will be on the stock exchanges. The biggest financial institutions will use crypto, will offer trading, and much more. So this is incredibly bullish news. Look at this. Many of you know Peter Thiel, whether you love or hate him, is a power player. huge hedge fund. He's got the fund called Founders Fund. Remember, he was an early investor in Facebook, also Bitcoin. His Founders Fund backed Plasma has raised $373 million in an oversubscribed token sale, shattering its original $50 million target. The stablecoin-focused Bitcoin sidechain will launch with $1 billion in stablecoins and offer fee-free transfers. Competition is heating up. Now that we have the stablecoin legislation in place, you're going to see a lot of folks jumping all in, including banks. So the fact that they're raising this level of capital is incredible. And it looks like they're really trying to expand Bitcoin's utility, doing this side chain with a stablecoin, because no one wants to spend their Bitcoin. Let's be real, right? If you're holding Bitcoin, until it reaches like maybe $1 million and you can spend a few Satoshis, you're not going to want to spend your Bitcoin. But I think that's why they're pivoting to, hey, let's get away from the Lightning Network and let's build a side chain that uses stablecoins, right? So folks, signs of the bull market, signs of more liquidity and capital coming in, and that there's still more building to be done. And it's not to say this is going to be built fully flushed out by the end of the year. I think a lot of the building is going to happen in the next bear market come late 2026 into 2027. It's the liquidity cycle. It's not so much the Bitcoin halving, and it's not so much crypto cycles, but the liquidity cycle, because if you line up the global liquidity to crypto, stock market, and so forth, it's all cyclical, right? That's why when Jerome Powell came out in 2021, November 2021, he's like, hey, we're going to do quantitative tightening. Markets started correcting, and then they went into full quantitative tightening, sucking all the liquidity out of the markets, and crypto crashed, stock market crashed, everything, right? But folks, incredible news. I mean, just look at what's happening here. And, guys like Peter Thiel, you want to pay attention to what they're doing because, they have the inside info, they got the connections and so forth. Now, SharpLink, which is an Ethereum treasury company, they continue to buy ETH. And this is very bullish for ETH, folks. Just like it was for Bitcoin with MicroStrategy buying, SharpLink is buying a ton. So between July 21st to the 27th, SharpLink, acquired nearly 77,210 ETH for $290 million at an average price of $3,756. So incredible. Do you think they're anticipating lower prices or higher prices? Look at the price they bought at, $3,756. That's near market price today. They're expecting higher prices, right? The arbitrage with the stock price of this company, you guys know how MicroStrategy has been doing it. So TLDR, the macro thesis is still in play following global liquidity. Higher prices are coming. I potentially think we see a blow off top come late October into early November. That could change based on if global liquidity continues to rise. But as of right now, that's what I'm thinking. In addition to the tariff pause, in addition to Congress getting market structure legislation passed, in late September into early October. So that's what I'm thinking. And like I said, key price points for me, Bitcoin, the next move to the local top of, let's say 130K plus, I'll be taking some profits. ETH, I'm going to wait for like 5K to take profits. And that may be, I have to wait maybe for Q3 to do that, or I should say late Q3 to do that, because we are in Q3. And then for XRP, I'm waiting for $5 to start taking some profits. That's me. You don't have to follow my plan. If you bought, at even lower valuations for these assets, and you're like, hey, XRP at $4, I'm taking profits, or $4.50, I'm taking profits, then, do what you got to do. It's your money, it's your finances. I know some of you are going to say, I'm not taking profits, I'm holding for the next 10 years. That's totally fine. It's all based on your financial situation. I personally have been said that, I need to do stuff with the money. I want to pay off some debt. I want to help some family. I want to boost up my retirement, my traditional retirement account, because I'm diversified that way. I want to spend a bit, do some stuff on the house, buy some things, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm looking at, honestly. But some of you may say, I don't need the money, I'm just going to hold. Totally fine. I'm not against that. But what I do think is important, if you are planning to take profits, have a plan. write down on a spreadsheet, what's your inventory, what you hold as far as your assets, what was your price, the price you got in at, what price point you're taking profits at, what's your tax implications, capital gains, and all that, and how you're going to use the money, right? Because look, there's a thing called sudden wealth syndrome. Look it up. People who play the lottery and win the lottery, they get hit with that and they spend the money and they don't plan, and many of them go bankrupt. So make sure you have a plan, account for taxes, eliminate debt so you give yourself more financial freedom, and spend wisely, right? But also put some away for a rainy day. It's important to write these things out. I personally have written them out. I should say I put in a Google Doc or something like that. Here's how I'm going to split up the profits and things like that. So just sharing from experience, folks. I've been here since 2016. I've gone through a multiple bull and bear market cycles, so that's what I'm anticipating. Folks, once again, check out our sponsors: Uphold, Trezor, Proppy, BChain, iTrust Capital. All the links will be in the description. Also, sign up for my free email newsletter, 100% free. Check out my book on Amazon and check out my course at mycryptocourse.com. Okay, going to answer some questions. Brian, so I covered that earlier. We are in the overbought zone, and this is a natural, healthy pullback. I shared Bitcoin, Ethereum, all in the overbought zone, right? Even the total 3, all in the overbought zone. Stock market, overbought zone. So we're going to pull back. Once again, it doesn't mean we have to go to the oversold zone. We could just dip down a bit and then continue before I think the bigger correction comes in August. But obviously we'll rally first before the correction. Yeah, absolutely, David, my pleasure. Let's see here. Colin and Christy, thank you so much, Colin. Thank you for tuning in. Seconds of meditation, thank you. Jonathan, great to have you. Thank you so much. What? Your username aligns with your comments level of Let's see. David says, I want to ask you what you think about Elon and Russ working to bring back Vine as AI videos app. I think it makes sense. Look, I think Vine was ahead of its time. You look at TikTok, right? Vine was just ahead of its time. But if Vine had been released around the TikTok era, I think it would have done really well. And I think it's a smart idea to bring it back. If X is able to do that right and execute it right, it could be really, really powerful because X already has, the market in place and so forth. Benjamin, great to have you from Philippines. Stacking silver for the zombie apocalypse. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, so Andy, I apologize, I didn't mention it. So tomorrow we have the FOMC meeting, right, folks? So I don't expect the Fed to cut rates. The market doesn't even expect it. If you look at the Fed futures and the prediction markets, they don't expect it. However, they do expect it in September. So the next FOMC meeting is around September 17th. So what we're looking for is not that Jerome Powell is going to say, hey, we're cutting rates this month or in August. But if he signals, he gives the dovish statements, we're going to look at cutting starting in September. The market just needs that because markets are forward looking. So any week of FOMC meeting, there's tons of volatility. So you really can't judge the markets, entirely. And to your point, Andy, we could see the market initially react with, oh, well, we're not cutting rates now. And then the market goes down a bit, right? This is in line with the cool off that's needed from the overbought zone. But then Jerome Powell, maybe he wraps up and he says, hey, we're going to cut in September. And then the market rallies from there. Not to mention, the White House crypto report is due this week. So could that help us get out of this pullback? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Andy, no cuts. I don't think this month. Now we could be surprised. I don't think the probability is very high for that, but let's see. Danny Gee, thank you so much. Appreciate you tuning in, my friend. For the Crown says, first trigger sell is set for $5.45 on XRP. Not a bad price target. Abdul, yes, I do believe we're going to go up in August because I believe, no guarantees, right? Obviously, we're using the data we have today, but I believe the market's going to cool down. I think we're going to see a bounce into August, hit some new highs, then have a bigger correction, kind of what Rect Capital is sharing here. And I'm sharing this because I agree with it based on my own analysis, that there's room for a bit of upside here, then a deeper correction into late August. Then I think middle of September, we start recovering, going crazy parabolic into October, into early November. And we see a possible blow off top. And I say possible because I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm looking at global liquidity. I'm looking at the tariff situation with the US and China being pushed back 90 days, which puts us in October. So that's a macro headwind out of the way. And Congress is going to pass crypto legislation, huge narrative to which the mainstream is going to run with, of course. John Howell says, hi, Tony. How high do you think the whole crypto market cap will go this bull market? Great question. So I've been posting in my newsletters, and that's why guys subscribe, a Fibonacci chart signaling potentially, I'm not guaranteeing, we could get as high near 10 trillion. That would align with a 4.236 extension Fibonacci level. Once again, not guaranteed we get there, right? But it's possible. And here's why. You have the banks, you have the ETFs, you have crypto legislation. That's going to usher in a lot of capital that's been sitting on the sidelines. Crypto is also more mainstream. Plus, you have the president, his kids all involved in crypto, building crypto businesses, investing. So you have all these things which are a perfect storm that could send in tons of liquidity and take us up there. Plus the tokenization, right, of real world assets. So I think that takes us to near 10 trillion. And then a massive correction, and it will be called the .com bubble 2.0, and the narratives will fly again. Crypto's a scam. See, I told you guys, right? It's the same thing over and over. But guys, as I've been saying, I'll take some of the profits. I'll be backing up the truck. I'll be buying all the blood, fear, and depression, all the people that's scared, because I did the same thing, folks, in December 2022 with FTX crashing. And then into January 2023, folks, I was buying down here. I shared the receipts. I've showed my buy orders and so forth. I was buying down here. So you can imagine right now, my portfolio looks spectacular. Buying Bitcoin, buying ETH, buying XRP. I bought some other coins as well. So my Bitcoin holdings are up significantly. The bull market started in January 2023, folks. So we've been doing this for the past 2 years. I know some of you are going to say, but the altcoins didn't. Yeah, but the altcoins lag behind Bitcoin. They've been moving slowly but surely, but this is why you want to have some exposure to Bitcoin. You don't have to buy one whole Bitcoin, but anyway. So when we start correcting and 2026, we enter into the pullback. Now, I don't think it's going to be as big of a pullback, but I'm going to be backing up the truck, folks, to be buying that blood, fear, depression. Rinse and repeat. Cheppy says XTZ. That's Tezos, right? Let's pull it up. I do have some Tezos. It's from the previous bull markets that I never liquidated. Not really a big deal. I don't have a ton of it. Let me see what's the best chart here that I can pull up. Okay, let's use Coinbase. All right. Let's see here. Okay. So Tezos at an all-time high of near $9. It's down significantly. Now, as always, doesn't. Oh wait, no, I'm wrong. It all-time high of near $12. What's not a good sign is the last bull market, it didn't break that all-time high. So, folks, I want you to keep in mind some coins may not break their all-time high. But it all depends on your entry point. If you bought Tezos at the bear market bottom and it just ran up to $9, for example, in the last cycle, you made money. You had a decent return. So if you bought the all-time high and you're waiting for it to break it, you're going to be in some pain, right? You're going to be in some loss. But it all depends on your entry point. This is why I'm saying buy the blood, fear, and depression. When mainstream media and everybody, the taxi drivers and everyone is like, hey, don't buy, man. Crypto crash, it's a scam. That's when you want to be buying. When they're all greedy and euphoric, that's the time you want to look to sell. I know it's kind of like undoing the mentality and the institutional knowledge we've all been programmed with, but that's how smart money operates, folks. And the charts show you the pattern here. The data shows you. So Tezos, not showing a lot of strength. Very weak right now. It has not even crossed over the 0.236 here, right? It needs to show strength. Now, that doesn't mean that later in the bull market, it can't rally. But because I'm not seeing the strength here, it's hard to say it's going to break the all-time high of $12 it's set, when it was initially launched. So these are things you got to keep in mind, and why you have to look at the timeline of the market to see where we're at and when you need to take profits. Because you may be holding on to a number and you're like, yeah, it's going to go to $50. Well, based on what, right? And does it have enough room to run based on the blow off top happening? And is it showing strength? Right now, not much strength, folks. And I'll give an example. The juxtaposition of that is, look at H bar. It's outside of that 0.236 zone. It rallied in Q4. It rallied recently. You want to see strength like that. This shows H bar has the potential to blast through that all-time high and go higher. It's showing the strength, and it's not far away from the all-time high. So from a percentage standpoint, not much liquidity needed, right? Versus, like I said, Tezos. Oops, I jumped out the whole thing here. So I hope you understand that and why we need to be vigilant and watch closely what the market's doing and where we need to take profits if you are planning to take profits. Sunlight says, not financial advice, but if you had 4 BTC, 2 at 70K average and 2 at 34K average, what suggests how to exit? Man, it's hard to answer that on the fly. I would need to put it in a spreadsheet, Sunlight, to be honest. And, I can't tell you what to do with your money. You know what I mean? I can only share what I'm doing because I just don't want to get in trouble in that way. But I would say map it out in a spreadsheet and put specific price targets. So let me at least give you this. Put your entry points, each individual Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin, 2 Bitcoin, 3, 4, right? Put the entry price next to that. Then put some of the key targets. So let's say 140K, 150, 160K, because that's, I believe, very doable. Now we could go higher, don't get me wrong. And then look at what your return is on those, and then do your respective capital gains tax on the gain, right? So do the math in the spreadsheet. What's the gain off your entry price? And then do the, whatever it is, 20% capital gains. I don't know where you live. I don't know what your income level is. And you know what I mean? You could talk to an accountant about that, and then see if you're happy with what's left, right? Are you happy with what's left? So just keep that in mind. Now, I want to also be transparent with you. There's some Bitcoin I'm never selling. Like, I'm going to have it in a hardware wallet in a safe. It's going to go to my daughter. But there are some Bitcoin I'm taking profits on this cycle. The reason being is Bitcoin, you can see the valuation. It continues to go higher and higher. It's going to be harder to buy one Bitcoin, right? Like I bought Bitcoin since it was like 2,500 and 3,000 and so forth. For me to, let's say the bull market corrects and Bitcoin goes to 50K as the bottom, just as an example. Am I going to go spend 50K on one Bitcoin? Probably not. I'll probably put it into some altcoins, right? Where I'm going to have more potential upside. So just sharing my thoughts on what I'm doing. Drew says, how about a magic 8-ball if no crystal ball? Yeah, my pleasure, Abdul. Excuse me. So I mentioned this earlier about the FOMC. I don't think the Fed cuts this month or August, but what we can hope for is Jerome Powell signals. He gives a dovish statement that they cut in September, and the markets would like that because they're forward looking, knowing rate cuts are coming. GT says, Tony, it makes no sense why we always pump at the end of the year in bull runs. Well, it's following the liquidity cycle. So in my course, by the way, I break this down. I know this is going to be like kind of like crazy and go over some of your heads. And no disrespect, it took me a while to understand this. Like, it's something that you really have to look into and study a bit. Global liquidity follows the presidential cycle. Why? The incumbents always try to make the market look as good as possible. They inject liquidity. Janet Yellen was doing it under Biden, right? So that's why you saw the bull market was rallying. And people are going to say, no, it was for Trump. No, go back and look at all the respective elections. It was rallying for Biden when he won. It was rallying for Trump when he first won. It was rallying for Trump again when the second time he won. It's the same cyclical pattern, right? The incumbents try to make the markets and the economy look as best as possible so they can win. And they do that with the Fed, in conjunction with the Fed, and cutting rates and printing money and loosening financial regulations. So it's not so much that it pumps at the end of the bull market cycle. It's just, what is the liquidity doing? And then when you get into the minutia of things, Bitcoin leads the market. So this is why I've been saying the bull market started in January 2023. It's been on the rise since then. And yes, altcoins, they were lagging behind, but this is where Bitcoin, we watch Bitcoin and use it as a measuring stick because it leads the market. The majority of liquidity comes into Bitcoin. And then there's a rotation of liquidity, in the chart. Oops, man, I'm hitting the wrong stuff here today. And the rotation of liquidity from Bitcoin to the altcoins. For example, again, subscribe to the newsletter, folks. So the liquidity rises, fiat goes up, more money in the markets, enters Bitcoin, and then so on and so forth. And the liquidity is not just for crypto, as I've been sharing. The stock market also hitting new all-time highs. Real estate also hitting new all-time highs. Silver, gold also hitting new all-time highs. See what's happening, right? You look at the collectible markets, because some of you may be able to see my comic books in the back. I have some graded comic books. You can see them back there. I collect stuff, right? But I collect rare graded collectibles that are going to go up in value because of global liquidity. So think about it. Why does a Mickey Mantle card, go for $1 million? It's just a piece of cardboard. Now, there is a sentimental value. There is a historical value. But is it worth $1 million? Hell no, right? I'm not saying it can't go for a few $100,000, but the reason it's worth $1 million is because global liquidity is going up and assets get priced in it. The same thing is happening on the inflation front. This is the thing many people don't understand, and they get hurt by it. They don't understand how rich people continue to grow their wealth. They put a lot of their wealth in assets, and those assets appreciate as inflation goes up. But if you're just holding cash, you're losing purchasing power. You're getting hurt. So this is why you got to diversify into assets. This is why we're doing what we're doing here, because we're trying to outpace debasement and the printing of currency and money and all that, right? And it's happening globally. So specifically with crypto, because it's new, it's the fastest horse in the race, as Paul Tudor Jones said. So it's outperforming the stock market. It's outperforming gold and silver. It's outperforming real estate. And obviously it doesn't have the same responsibilities and management level that you need to have with a real estate, right? So this is why we're here, folks, because if we just leave our money in cash, we're not getting any type of interest from the banks. And they keep printing and debasing the currency. That's why $10,000 today has less purchase value than $10,000 5 years ago. I think someone highlighted recently on X that if you use your stimulus check in 2020 to buy some Bitcoin, it will be worth what, 3-4 times more now, right? Just things like that, right? Purchasing power and all that. So that's what's going on here, folks. This is the crux of why we're here investing. I love the technology, don't get me wrong, and I'm curious about it, and I want to see how it's going to be adopted. But first and foremost, I'm trying to outpace the debasement. I'm trying to grow my wealth, right, folks? It's just me says, hi, Tony. What is your thoughts on Richard Hart and his ecosystem after all he won against the SEC? So obviously, congrats to Richard for winning there. You know, I don't really follow Hex and Richard Hart, so I can't really give you an educated, reasonable response to that question. So I'm going to have to pass. I can do some research on it and get back to you, but I don't know much about what he's doing and what Hex is doing, honestly. Drew says, wow, look at Zbeck network. I see a lot of people talking about this. I don't know much about it. So to be honest, I'm not hating. I just don't know much about it. Sharma says, how high is the high? I wonder. So as I mentioned, for the total market cap, we could see a $10 trillion. And actually, I'm not showing my screen anymore. So let me get back to that. So if we look at the extension levels that Bitcoin has hit in the past, it has went up to the 3.618. Notice in 2021, it did that. It even surpassed it. So if Bitcoin was to go to that zone, it would put it near 200,000, possibly higher. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Okay. I'm not guaranteeing that. I'm just saying if, and then the total market cap, like I said, could potentially go to $10 trillion, given all the things that are happening. But that would, once again, lead us to that blow off top, big crash, crypto's a scam narrative starts again, right? But that's the accumulation zone. Then come 2028, next Bitcoin halving, we start running up into the next bull market, rinse and repeat. Yeah, I saw that too, KJam. Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, on the Sean Ryan show. So crypto's going mainstream, folks. AVI says, no bull market for alts. Alts will only experience bear market. Bull market is for new altcoins and Bitcoin. If you get an alt, that doesn't make sense, because how can you say no bull market when Ethereum is rallying? It's not far from its all-time high. XRP broke its all-time high. So I don't know what you're talking about. Now, you may say certain altcoins may not get the liquidity. Sure. But to say altcoins are not in a bull market makes absolutely no sense. Solana has already broken its all-time high. It obviously pulled back, but it's not far from it. And so I have no idea. Look at HBAR, same thing. So how can you say no bull market? They're clearly moving. Zed says, will Flare finally launch its F assets? Yeah, I should be doing an interview soon with Hugo Filion and some folks from Firelight. I think that's what it's called. And I think they will get around to it. I think, I don't know if, they're still in development phase or they're timing it with the market, but I think we're going to see those things launch. And I'm bullish on Flare, by the way. I think Flare can do really well. Obviously, I got the airdrop and I currently delegate. So I have no cost basis here, right? It's just all straight up money. So I'm hoping, man, it can break 6 cents. That would be amazing. Robert Simon says, what about XDC? So I don't hold XDC. Let's take a look here. Is it this chart? Okay. So XDC is showing some strength here. Again, no bias. I don't hold a coin, but noticing Q4, it rallied with the rest of the market, and it is not far from its old all-time high of 19 cents, around that zone. And right now it's showing strength. So if you're XDC holder, that's positive, right? It's out of that 0.236 zone, the bottom, right? Away from the bear market bottom. And again, depending on your entry point, if you bought down here, I mean, you've already made money because it went up. Now you may say, I'm looking for more gains and higher gains. And honestly, and not guaranteed, I think this thing can break its all-time high of 20 cents, 19, 20 cents. It's not far away from it. It's already showing a lot of strength. Doubt Doge hits its all-time high, replaced by Pengu. Well, Doge has a huge brand. It's one of those things that has become kind of a pop culture phenomenon. And then you got guys like Elon and big names who are pushing Doge right forward. Look at this though. Doge, I don't hold it. I'm not bullish on meme coins, but look at that. This thing is showing tons of strength. In December, it rallied to its all-time high, and it's off that bottom zone. So, guys, this is what you want to see when you're holding a coin, right? And it's a coin that's in the top 10. So, looks like someone's at my door here. Ring the doorbell. One second. Okay, just Amazon delivery. All right, so guys, Doge looks good. I don't think Pengu's is replacing Doge, in my opinion. Now, maybe in future bull markets, it certainly can. Yeah, Joku, and you have to understand the market moves in cycles. So some people are like, no bull market for altcoins, but we still got room to go. So it's not like the bull market's over and then, hey, the altcoins didn't run. So certain altcoins are going to show strength. Like I've been saying, XRP was showing a lot of strength into the end of last year and even into the beginning of this year. Ethereum is now kind of stealing that mantle, but Solana was the true leader among the alts in 2023 into 2024, right? It was leading, getting a lot of liquidity. So what? Oh yeah, Curve. So Eric, so someone asked me to check Curve. I don't hold Curve, so just in full transparency, is this it? Let's see what's the best chart here. Well, hold on. That's Curve down. CRV. Let's use Binance for a sec. Let's see what's happening here. I hope this is the right coin. I don't know if it is, but man, when it launched, is this right? This data doesn't seem right. That is not a chart you want to look at. See if you hold a coin. Big fat L, right? But let me make sure I'm using the right thing here. I don't know if I am. What is it? Curve Dow? Curve. Is that indeed the chart? Holy shit. If that's the chart, man, that's brutal. Okay. That's not a chart you want to see, especially that it's not showing enough strength and it's down significantly from the all-time high. Again, if your chart looks like an L like this, that's not a good sign. It's got work to do here. I'm jumping through these different charts to make sure I'm getting the right one. But that's pretty brutal, guys. I don't know if this is the right one, but this looks a bit more reasonable, but this doesn't look like it's all the data. It doesn't go as far back versus, let's say, the Binance chart, which was probably listed on first. Yeah. Okay. This thing had an original all-time high of near $50. Over $50. That's pretty brutal right there. Yes, the green line is a 200-day moving average. So I often tell you guys, when we are above this thing, it's bull market territory. When we are below it, it is bear market territory. So this is a little nugget you guys can take away from here, right? It doesn't mean in a bull market we can't dip below the 200-day moving average. Notice we've done that multiple times, 3 times, in fact, in this bull market, right? For Bitcoin. But what you don't want to see is an extended period below it in a downtrend, because that is bear market. Go look at all the charts, guys. Bear market. If you're below that thing and it's headed downwards. When you are securely above it, bull market. You can apply it to the stock market. Look at this, S&P 500. Right? Same principle. And by the way, TradingView is free. Just go sign up with your email and that's it. Notice when we are above that 200-day moving average, bull market. When we're below in a downtrend, bear market. Now, you may say, Tony, well, look at the tariff crash, but it quickly recovered. It wasn't an extended downtrend going like this, right? It didn't do this. It did a quick V shape. So that's why I have this big indicator here, 200-day moving average on the chart, because it's simply, when we are above that, good things happen. When we are below that, bad things happen. You know what I mean? Yeah, KJam, it's up to you what you want to do. Coinbase has a lending program. You can do loans if you want. And if certain merchants start accepting Bitcoin, you can pay with Bitcoin. You know, we'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, I have plans for my my profits that I need to execute. Everybody do what's best for yourself, right? Vatican says, hi, Tony, will Pepe hit 6x from the here this cycle? Vatican, I'm sorry, man. I just don't dabble with meme coins, and it's honestly hard. You know, I gave the example of Doge, but Doge has been around for a long time, but I don't want to go down the meme coin rabbit hole, my friend. It's just hard to navigate the waters there, and I personally don't hold them. Yes, Holy Grail. So we start off the live stream talking about, we could see a quick flush out, maybe with the volatility we're going to see tomorrow with the FOMC meeting, Jerome Powell. And I believe that will be healthy because we were in an overbought zone. So it doesn't mean we have to go to the oversold zone, but we come down a bit more before blasting off into higher prices in August. That's what I'm personally thinking, in full transparency. But obviously I don't have a crystal ball, but based on what I'm seeing on the charts, and that Bitcoin continues to follow global liquidity. So showing potential move up here very soon. And yeah. And then I think we see a correction, you know, like I said, into August, into September, then in a rally starting late September, taking us potentially to that blow off top. Thanks, Christian. I appreciate it. Folks, once again, check out our sponsors. Uphold, great place to buy, sell, stake your crypto assets. Trezor, great hardware wallet, beautifully designed. Self-custody is the way. It's an open source wallet. Use the code ThinkingCrypto, all one word, ThinkingCrypto, to get 5% off. Proppy, I'm a Proppy token holder. They're leading the charge of putting real estate on chain. We know all assets will be tokenized, so real estate is going to be a big part of that. Proppy's leading the charge. Check out VeChain, enterprise layer 1 blockchain, partner with many big brands, Boston Consulting Group, BMW, PwC. They're even partnered with Dana White and the UFC, doing some great things. I'm a VET token holder. Check out iTrust Capital, a great alternative way to get tax exemptions and benefits by investing via an IRA. They have 80 plus cryptocurrencies. They also have a premium custody account. It's backed by a bank. So this is not your regular custodian. It's all insured. They also use Coinbase's institutional prime custody, which BlackRock uses. And if you use my link, you can get a $100 funding bonus. All the links will be in the description. Check out my newsletter. Like I told you guys, it's 100% free. Sign up and get these charts and updates on a weekly basis. And you can go back to them at any point. If you forget about something, you want to know, hey, where are we at? Let me go look at this chart Tony shared in this newsletter, right? You know, from an Elliott wave standpoint, from a Fibonacci standpoint, global liquidity, all these things. And it's free. Once again, no spam, comes straight to your inbox, packed with a lot of value. Check out my book on Amazon and my course at mycryptocourse.com. Okay, folks, so let's see here. Answer some more questions. Nah, bro says, but I doubt retail will buy high this time. Right now, they're not here, and if they broke, they want come back. Well, we saw some of it in Q4. So we see the Google trends spiking. We saw the Coinbase app rising. So I disagree with you. I think what the retail needs is a strong narrative. And that's why I believe with higher prices and with crypto legislation passing, that could be huge, right? So let's look at let's say the past 12 months. So look at this. Retail was here in November, December, they started coming back recently with the pump, Bitcoin to new highs. So let's do the word crypto. Let's do some comparisons here. So yeah, yep, they're around. I think though for the blow off top, you need a bigger narrative, and that's why I've been saying crypto legislation. Gonzo says, ready for that ADA pump. Yeah, look, I think ADA is going to have its day in the sun here. Every dog has its day, right? As they would say. I do hold some Cardano in my portfolio. I think we need to see a bit more strength, though. It did rally in Q4, which is a very good sign, but it has not shown a lot of strength recently. But I believe it will. I believe it's a top 10, 12 coin, right? I think it can rally, and we'll see what the Cardano Foundation and these guys come up with, but needs more strength. And again, when I say that, I'm comparing it to for example, HBAR and XRP, right? And Solana. You can see they're higher in the extension levels. Ethereum was down in the dumps. People were crapping on it, saying it's dead, and now look at where it's at. So that's what I want to see for Cardano, if you know what I mean. Yeah, absolutely, Gaylor. My pleasure. Excuse me. MJ says, is the SEC waiting for the Clarity Act to pass to act on Ripple and crypto ETFs? MJ, that's personally what I think. I've been stating that over the past few weeks. The delays in the ETFs and all these things, I believe they're waiting for that. And they do have a deadline in October for the crypto ETFs. So again, if they wait for that deadline, could we see again, the blow off top at that point? Huge narrative. Crypto legislation passed. SEC approves XRP, Solana ETFs. All of these things, right? Huge narrative. Thank you, Macy. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Guys, please hit that thumbs up button if you haven't as yet. Hit the heart button. Hit the like button. Subscribe. It really helps the live stream and the podcast. It doesn't cost you anything. Again, thumbs up. All these things, it will really help. Thank you so much. KJM says, I think Bitcoin will hit 200K to 250K by Christmas. KJM, I hope so. I will be very happy. Many of you know I'm going to be cashing out in stages, so I'm not dumping all my coins at once. So I mentioned like at 135 to 40K, I'm taking some profit. So that's like 20% of my Bitcoin holdings, but I'm still holding the majority. And as I mentioned earlier, if Bitcoin was to hit these extensions, it did in the previous bull markets, right? You can see here in 2021, it went beyond the 3.618. If it was to go up here, that puts us, in that 200K plus. The question is, will it do that, right? There's no guarantees. And that's where, we'll have to wait and see. Balalika, if I'm saying that right. Hi, Tony. Big fan here. Long time listener and to the podcast. Do you have price predictions for FET? So I'm a FET token holder. Many of you know I bought it in like around January 2023. Made some nice returns on that because AI coins were ripping, man. I still hold some because I took profits and then bought back in on the lows again. I believe the AI narrative will continue, but let's see. I could be wrong. But I'm hoping this thing can blast through up to $5-6 again with the AI narrative and that it's a new coin. But I bought early January 2023, sold some as we ran up. I sold at around like $3 and stuff, so made a nice profit, honestly. And I'm hoping it can run again. So I think I could safely say, because it's not far from its all-time high, it could break that old all-time high of $3.50 area. Could certainly see $5-6, but Again, not a guarantee. I want to make sure I say that because I don't want people to think, oh, it's definitely getting there. We're speculating, obviously, but we're at least using some data points, right? We're not just making it up, pulling it out of the sky, but using things like a Fibonacci extension to get an idea of what may happen. KJM says altcoins blast off once Bitcoin dominance drops. Yes, so Bitcoin dominance, as you guys know, has been dropping significantly, and that's where we had Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum rally. With this cool off, it allows the Bitcoin dominance to surge back up a bit. Again, all healthy. You see the inverse correlation that's happening? Bitcoin and altcoins are going down and they're heading out of the overbought zone, while the Bitcoin dominance is getting out of the oversold zone. Look how red that RSI is right there. That is super, super oversold. So as this starts breaking down, we're gonna, I'm definitely getting below like 60. We're gonna see big rallies, and yeah, it could be huge for this market. In addition, Tether dominance, right? This is the stablecoin liquidity. Notice the breakdown every time we've had rallies. Look at this, Q4, November, December, right? Look at this, Q1 into Q2 of 2024, the recent rally. And this thing getting below 4, maybe down to 3.5% or lower, I think it's going to send things going parabolic. So again, I hope you appreciate the data. No feelings, no emotions, no, hey, this thing is going 100x. No. Let's look at the data. Let's look at the macro. Let's look at the on-chain data as well. Like I showed you guys earlier, Bitcoin whales accumulating. This is one of the signals I'll be sharing in my newsletter. Once this thing starts breaking down and they're exiting the market, we know what time it is, right? It's time to prepare for the top. In addition, Pi cycle top indicator as well. And as we get closer to the top of global liquidity as well. Crypto Rafi says, Tony, maybe you know, why do big buyers do it OTC so the price is not moving too much and often see big dumps on the open market? So Rafi, these guys are trying to make money. It's the age-old strategy, right? It's what the smart money what they do. They want to buy, not move the market. They don't want you to know they're buying, but when they are ready to get the price higher so they can exit the market, then they say, hey, we bought 50 Bitcoin recently, or a billion XRP, or 500,000 Ethereum, or something like that, right? And then they go on TV. You see a lot of them, the hedge fund guys, right? Yeah, we believe, Bitcoin's going to $1 million. This is the game. Now, they often say, don't hate the player, hate the game. You got to play that game and ride the wave. So this is why, when you see all the folks on TV, that's the time you're starting to watch the market to take profits, because they're looking to take profits, because they've already taken their position and they're showing you their cards. Hey, I hold Bitcoin. Now, they didn't tell you when they were buying, and they don't want to move the market to make you think that a whale is buying. So they go buy OTC. Often they get it at a discount. And once again, they don't want to move the market, because if they buy on the open market, it will send the market higher. And then people are going to get an idea. Wait a minute, who's buying? BlackRock, right? That type of thing. You know what I mean? So that's the game they play. That is the game. Heinrich says, will we ever see bet move? I think we will. Let's look at VeChain. And I got VeChain in my portfolio. The good sign was in Q4. It did rally, but guys, it needs to show more strength. I think it will. But yeah, it's not looking too great right now, Heinrich. And I understand why you asked that question. I think it will. We did see some life in Q4, but it's kind of like in the same bucket as Cardano, in a sense that it has the potential, it has some narratives around it, but it's not showing the strength yet. I think it will get there. Drew says, some of my favorite tokens are HBAR, XRP, Zebek, and VeChain. Yeah, I have 3 of those. I don't have Zebek. Eric Serrano, great to have you. TW says, Tony, do you believe in the 4-year cycle, the end of it, or an upcoming super cycle? TW, I'll answer this question like this. Okay, let me back up for a second. So you need to establish first, as a foundational knowledge item, a principle of the markets. All risk assets follow global liquidity. We talked about it, the money supply, debasement of currency, and all of that, right? So if it's following liquidity, liquidity doesn't always go up in a straight line. There are corrective points. For example, as we've seen just earlier this year with the tariff situation. In addition, look at 2022, quantitative tightening, right? So there's quantitative easing and quantitative tightening. And the easing is when there's a lot of liquidity and asset prices are going higher. Tightening is when there's less liquidity and asset prices are going into bear markets. So with that established, let's go to the stock market. The stock market is regulated. There's legislation in place. The stock market has ETFs. Why is it correct? Why does it go into bear markets? So that's how I'm going to answer that question, because I want you to think about it. Why does the stock market, which is regulated and has ETFs and gets more liquidity than crypto, still experience bear markets? Why do we have these crashes? Right? Why do we have all these things happening, folks? That is because it's following liquidity. It's following liquidity, and when there's a tightening or some major catalyst, it has to follow. Same thing with crypto. So if you think crypto is exclusive from all of these things, then you're listening to the wrong narrative. Crypto is still in the process of growing, maturing. It's going to get legislation, it's going to get ETFs, but gold and the stock market and precious metals have all experienced bear markets. Why? Because of liquidity. And the same thing applies to crypto. I'm bullish on VeChain for sure. I have Flare on Coinbase. How do you delegate it or get free Flare? So you have to move it to the app. Let's see. I use the Bifrost wallet. Coinbase doesn't do it for you. Oh boy, come on. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, so I have the Bifrost wallet. It's BI. Hold on, pull it up here. BIFROST wallet. So that's the one. It's a self-hosted wallet, so you have to make sure you back up your private keys. But I have Flare and Songbird delegating on there, and I'm earning the rewards. So Coinbase won't do it for you. Yeah, Eric. Well, that's the thing. When you're connected so closely to the money printer, you do a lot of stuff, right? You overspend. This is the problem. And one could argue the problem of the fiat currency system, because when you become so close to the money printer, regardless if you're a Democrat or Republican, you're some politician, the temptation is great, right? To get as much money as possible. And unfortunately, not think about the consequences. Hey, folks. So it's been over an hour streaming, so I'm going to wrap up soon. Once again, check out our sponsors: Uphold, Trezor, Proppy, VeChain, iTrust Capital. Check out my free email newsletter. Sign up, folks. It's 100% free. Check out my book on Amazon and my course at mycryptocourse.com. Comprehensive course that teaches you everything about crypto. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up. It's been over an hour. Thank you so much for tuning in. I wish you all the best of luck in this bull market, that you make incredible returns. And remember, have a plan if you are planning to take profits. And of course, when you have those profits, make sure you have a plan of how you're going to divide that money, right? Paying off debt, taxes, spend, both boosting up your retirement. Be smart as well. And if you're going to reinvest some of it, well, I'm personally going to be reinvesting some of it in the bear market. So keep these things in mind, folks. And I'll catch you all in the next one.